Hello and welcome to the Knock on KCLR Sports weekly rugby podcast, where we cover everything Carlow, Kilkenny and Tullow Rugby and the local colleges and schools as well. We've got Paddy, Browne, James Blanchfield and hopefully Tom Crotty at some stage in the podcast. Lads, how's it going?
Well done, Stephen. How are you?
Couldn't be any better.
Good stuff. A busy week just away from the local stuff. We've got the Autumn Internationals kicking off on Friday, of course, against the All Blacks, and obviously a couple of more games as well there as well. Looking forward to all that stuff as well. Gives a break from the provincial stuff, and I suppose the big news that we were covering last week, the week before, Graham Rowntree leaving Munster and all that sort of stuff. But it's nice to park it all for a while and just focus on the international stuff, isn't it?
It certainly is. It certainly is. I'm glad we're recording today and not tomorrow, because we have a bus leaving the rugby club at 1 o'clock tomorrow, heading to the match in Dublin. So we're looking forward to it. And it is. Look, it's great to get back into the international stuff and kind of overall in the doom and gloom of Munster feeling sorry for themselves and it being everybody else's fault. And Leinster beating everyone, Ulster on the way up, Connacht on the way up. So it's great to get back into the international stuff. And last weekend was brilliant. The All Blacks versus England and Scotland versus Fiji was a big scoring difference, but it was a great game of rugby. Munster versus the All Blacks last Saturday night. Have to say it was a good game of rugby as well. The All Blacks 15 got a couple of lucky tries at the end. But I would say, just kind of having looked at that and what Munster are going through as well in terms of their coaching setup, I think the future can be bright for Munster to have some exciting young players coming through. So tongue-in-cheek aside of them blaming everyone else for their problems, I think give them a little while and they will get these young guys through. And it might have been Graham Rowntree might have been looking at it going, well, I lost 7 or 8 players and I only got a few handful of lads in. But I think if he was willing to play the waiting game, he would certainly have gotten a lot of these good young guys through. Ben O'Connor, Paul O'Connell's nephew Evan, isn't it? And a lot of other lads there. But yeah, looking forward to Ireland and the All Blacks tomorrow night. I think it's as strong an Ireland team as they could have put out. Feel Calvin Nash might be a little bit. He might have gotten injured or something. I think he might be a little bit feel hard done by that he's not in. But I think it's a really strong Irish team. It'd be interesting to see Byrne there in the back row. But I think something just tells me the All Blacks might have a little bit much for us this week.
Yeah, an interesting selection, all right, James. I think obviously with Ty Furlong out and Finlay Beale a minute, it doesn't make the team that much. I think Bale has never let us down, so it's an interesting one. Mac Hansen took a little bit of a chance with him, and maybe Calvin Nash was more match fit, but Hansen has that star quality, and he really produces it on the big stage. So I'm looking forward to see how he goes. He hasn't been tearing up trees for Connacht since he came back, but this is the big chance for him. And see 3 Connacht men starting I know they're all imports, but it's fantastic to see it.
It surely is, Paddy. But I just think I know we have an absolute unbelievable back row. Ty Byrne at 6, Van der Fleyer 7, and Doris at 8. I just think that the All Blacks back row, it's Satiti and Sam Kane and others there. I just think Satiti was absolutely unbelievable last weekend. So I'm looking really forward to seeing it. And I'd say that's a little bit of the reason why you're seeing Ty Byrne in the back row as well, as maybe to counteract the big ball carriers and the athleticism of the All Blacks back row. So it's going to be a cracking game anyway.
Should be great. There'll be lots of Kilkenny representation up there.
There will be.
Absolutely. Ryan Baird misses out.
Jersey.
Yeah.
I'll be wearing
Ryan Baird
misses
out. The blue and the white.
Ryan Baird, yeah, I think he's a first. But it's good to see Ian Henderson back in the squad.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think he might be being forgotten about a little bit, and it's a big opportunity for him to make his claim,
He never let Ireland down.
Never.
No, that's it. Fingers crossed Peter O'Mahony has the fitness anyway to go a half at least or 30 minutes, at full tilt against the All Blacks. He has it in him anyway, but
he like what Paddy said about Mac Hansen, Peter O'Mahony's never left Ireland down against the big sides.
Absolutely. He's a man for the big games.
I know.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, looking forward to it, lads. It's great to have something to look forward to like that on the telly. But anyway, we'll focus on the local stuff from here on in. James, Kilkenny away to Salle Palmerston last week. How did that go?
Well, my fingernails are just about growing back after it. Christ, it was an incredible game of rugby. The heartbeat for the last 15 minutes was just coming out through the chest, and like to go into a 13 or a 10-0 lead, and for us to rely on a last kick of the game in the last second of the game to take the victory, was like it was right or over stuff, from both sides. Like we went up with a relatively strong team. Have to say, as strong a 15 as we could put out, really, with Charlie Buckley, Ben Devlin, and Josh Evans forming the front row. I just have to mention Josh Evans. He's a guy who's joined the club this year up from Cashel. He spent a couple of years in Cashel, but originally from Mitchelstown in County Cork. He's working in Avonmore, Tier Lawn now, and just really quiet guy, goes about his job on the pitch really nice and quietly, doesn't give away penalties, and he's made the Tighthead jersey his own this year for the club, for our first 15, which is hard to do considering that Conan Dunn had that jersey, and he's kind of he doesn't have it now, and there's talk of Conan actually going elsewhere to try and get a start on a team. But look at Josh. Josh deserves a lot of kudos. We were speaking about him last night, and just the way he goes about his business. He doesn't give away penalties. He looks after his scrummage, and he does his carrying. He's the sort of player that you want in your team. In the second row, Doc O'Connor moved into the second row. Andrew Warner was injured, so Doc moves up to partner Jay Callbeck. And then our back row saw Jay Lahey come in at number 6, Jason Connolly at number 7, and Gary Dunn at 8. Back line, Stephen Atkinson and Dan O'Neill at 9 and 10. Dan Dowling and Jeff Power on the wings. Joe Manuel and Ewan Rossetti were in the centres, and Jack Campion was full back. Look, we got a very, very, very hard-earned and attritional 19 points to 21 win. There was a lot of victories in that win for us as well. It just wasn't on the scoreboard. It was our first win of the season. We won, or our first away win of the season, I should say. We won the game having multiple injuries during the game, and the injuries were a reflection of the physicality of the game. It was just attritional rugby. And I have to just mention DLSP. They're a team that are at the wrong end of the table. They're sitting bottom of the league. They haven't won a game yet this season. And I think that's unjustified because they're a really, really good side. They're a really well coached side. They're better than what their league position suggests. And they were seconds away from getting a win against us on Sunday. I'm in no doubt, and speaking to a lot of the Kilkenny players and management, they're in no doubt either that DLSP will climb the table. And it's going to be a very interesting league. Mullingar kind of starting to open a little gap, but I think from number 3 down to number 8, it's going to be very tight. We lost Joe Manuel very early in the game through an arm injury, who was replaced by Wes Carter, and Wes Carter eventually had to go off injured again. So these kind of changes really disrupted our flow. But we went 3-0 up to a Dan O'Neill penalty, followed by a Ben Devlin try to put us into a 10 points to 0 lead. But from there, De La Salle got a little bit of upper hand, and they brought it back to 10 points to 5. Dan O'Neill slotted another penalty, making it 13-5. And then Jason Connolly, who was on as I mentioned previously, Jason's back from his first season in 5 years, having gotten clearance to play after concussion. And Jason got a second try in 2 games back, so it was great. That put us into an 18 points to 5 lead. And at that stage, the game should have been dead and buried. We should have been probably targeting try number 3 or try number 4 at that stage. But absolute credit to Paulie Tulafua led De La Salle. They just came back at us, and slowly but surely they chipped away. They brought it 18-12, and then they went into a 19-12 lead. Charlie Buckley got a yellow card for us, and that kind of gave them a numerical advantage. But that kind of, I think that yellow card kind of gave us a little bit of an impetus to up our work rate and make inroads into the De La Salle's 22. And in the last 4 minutes, we got 3 kickable penalties. We missed 2 of them. Which was why I was saying the fingernails nearly down and the heart was coming out through the chest. But we missed 2 of them. And then for the final one, we just swapped over kicker, and Axel Montgomery, who's just back in from international duty playing with Norway, believe it or not, in a tournament against Sweden and Finland and the Nordic rugby tournament. I think Axel came in, Canadian guy, and slotted the winning penalty. As the ball hit the ground after sailing over the bar, the referee blew the final whistle, and as you can imagine, the celebrations of and scenes at the end were right over stuff, and De La Salle were rightly annoyed that they managed to lose the game, that we managed to win it. So look, it brings us up to 5th in the league. But a lot of rugby yet to play. We have 2 rounds of in the first stage of the Leinster League left to go. We've Dundalk away next week, and then we have Kildare in our final game before we move into the second round of games. But look, it was a determined win. The lads, like, I mean, if you looked at the Kilkenny players leaving the pitch on Sunday, they were exhausted. They were absolutely exhausted, emotionally and physically drained. They put so much into it. And I think it's probably testament to the footprint that Corey Carty is putting on the team. It'd be very easy for Corey to pick the older statesmen to give Wes Carter back into the second row every week, but he's looking to build a team, and I think that's testament to Corey. He's looking at the long-term vision with the club. It'd be very easy to move Axel Montgomery to out half, which is a natural position, but Dan O'Neill and Jack Campion are the long-term future of the club, and they're going to need that exposure there. So Corey is really looking at the long-term. Giving young fellas like Dan Dowling their run on the wing, throwing Jack Campion into full back. Charlie Buckley, who I would have brought through youth rugby, it's great to see him in there. So I think Corey deserves a little bit of kudos. We probably won't see real success from this team until next year or the year after, but we can all see the stamp that he's putting on it. As I said, it was a tough game, a lot of bruised and battered bodies after it, and I think that's probably going to impact selection for next week, you know. But Dundalk away, which is a place where you go to Dundalk, you need everyone fit and well. So be interesting to see what the starting 15 for that is. It's announced tomorrow night in training. Our seconds lost on a tight scoreline of 8 points to 6. The last game of seconds rugby I played was in De La Salle, and I'll never ever forget the physicality of it. It was a seconds game. The physicality of it was just unbelievable. The hitting, probably a little bit of dirt in as well, but you won't argue about that. But the hitting in it, and the seconds game last Sunday was no different. It was an bruising game, a lot of battered bodies coming off the pitch, but seconds just have to get themselves back on the wagon now. I think that's 2 in a row that they've lost, so they need to just get going. Youths results was a busy week for youths. Our under 13 boys played Water Park in a challenge match on Friday night. They were well beat, but Water Park are always very, very strong at that level. We kind of played them 2 or 3 times a year, and they're always very strong, but they were well beat. But that team are just going to stay building. They're kind of in transition. They lost a lot of players to Kilkenny College this year, which is tough for the club when you're losing 5 and 6 players to the school and losing 3 or 4 coaches every year. When their young fellas go to the school, they don't want to be involved when they get not involved with the club. But however, they're the rules. We have to work by them. The under 18 boys had a very big win against Port Arlington, 37 points to 7. The under 14 boys beat Wexford 24-21. As I mentioned, the seconds lost and the J1s won. Our minis had a full programme against Tullow. Under 7s, 8s and 9s are in Kilkenny, where there's about 70 Kilkenny players on show, and our under 10s and 11s were in Tullow, where there was a further 30 players up there. So it was great. I think Kilkenny and Tullow, Paddy, maybe you know, but I think Kilkenny and Tullow have the 2 largest mini sections in the southeast, which is great. And I think it's just there's a lot of hard work goes into it from George Marr and everyone else in the club. And I know Tullow and Carlow are no different. That minis is very important. Moving on, just kind of other bits and pieces. Our sponsor of the week is the Clubhouse Hotel, and we just want to thank Ian Brennan for his continued support to the club. Ian's home is the closest house to the rugby club as well, so it's just an irony there, but it's good to have Ian's sponsorship. An interesting one is our throwback this week is 12 years for our Division 2A league winning team. Incidentally, that was Steve Ashmore's first year with the club, and we won that league. That team was captained by Philly Ryan. But we believe, like, I kind of would look back and reflect on that team as being the team that kind of turned the tide in Kilkenny rugby. We had been riding the crest of a wave from 1998 through to 2003, but we went into a little bit of a doldrum there for a few years when the team retired and there wasn't much coming through from youths. But I believe that the 2012 league winning team was the team that turned the tide. They won 3 Leinster leagues, one Division 2A and 2 1Bs. They contested 4 Towns Cups, winning one of them, and won a couple of South East leagues. So I think when as a club we reflect back on that, I think there's an awful lot of thanks needs to go to Philip Ryan and Tim Kiley, who was the president at the time, who worked so hard to get Steve Ashmore into the club, because Steve brought a new way of thinking into the club when he came in as coach. I think he might have only been 31 or 32 when he came in. So he brought a new way of thinking, and kind of, I believe that model is still instrumental in what we're doing today. We're probably going through a further transition now at the moment with Corey, but I think that the club owe an awful lot to that team and that coaching cohort, and Tim Kiley, who was president at that stage. During this week, our under-16 girls had a training game against Kilkenny College. We had 30 players tagged out, which was incredible to see at under-16s. I think Declan Keogh and Conor Bass, Megs McGuinness and others need a lot of praise for what they're doing at under-16s. And thanks to Caroline Mahan, she's a teacher at Kilkenny College, 48 Irish caps, part of our club as well, who refereed the game. So thanks for that. Thanks to Declan, Conor and Caroline for facilitating that game. Our member of the week is Julian Hughes, who needs no introduction. His profile is visible there on all of our socials. Thanks to our women's team, who had a fundraising quiz last Friday night. But looking ahead to rugby for this week, all 3 adult teams have a long journey. The women are going to Longford, both of them are tied, I think, on 4 points in the league, 1 win each. Going to be a tough journey up there, but if the women can come away with a win from that game, it'll kind of give them a little bit of breathing space, and believe that they're probably strong enough to remain in Division 3 and can start building from there with the mixture of youth and experienced players. I was talking to Paddy Moss last night, just met him out in the club, and he's looking forward to the journey. He definitely feels it's a game they can win, but they just need everyone to perform. Our first and seconds are away to Dundalk. It's hard to know what's going to happen in that game at this stage. As I mentioned, we have a lot of injuries coming out of De La Salle. Touch and go whether Joe Manuel will be there. Jeff Power has a leg injury. Wes Carter got another injury. So we'll see what happens there. Podge Mahan could be coming back in. So we'll see what happens. But it's going to be a tough game. And I believe that a win for us there will kind of put us on 4 wins and 2 losses. Where if we come away with a loss, it'll be kind of 3-3, and it'll undo a lot of the good work that was done last week. But our away record hasn't been great with the first this year, so we need to make sure that we go up there fully loaded, fully tuned, and ready to come away with the win. Youths games this weekend. They're under 14 boys are home to Eden Derry on Saturday morning at 11. The under 14 girls are home to Rathdrum at 11:30. The under 16 girls are away to Ashbourne Balbriggan, I think, at 12. The under 18 girls are home to Portlaoise at 12:30. The under 18 boys are away to Mullingar at 12:30. The under 15 boys are away to Naas at 12:30, and that's all of the Saturday games. On Sunday, our under 16 boys were ready to welcome Balbriggan, but Balbriggan have conceded the game. That news just came through about half an hour ago, and our under 13 boys are away to Enniscorthy. Big word of thanks to Ben Devlin and Wes Carter, who took a line-out clinic out in the club last week with our under 16s and 18 boys and girls. I think there was about 34, 35 kids there, about 8 or 10 coaches as well. Thanks to the 2 guys, and also thanks to Steve Ashmore, who hosted a tackle and defensive workshop with our youths and minis coaches last night. There were about 45 coaches at that, which was great to see. Just kind of on workshops and clinics, our club objective is kind of to change how we're doing things and get all of our coaches working together. So we're doing a lot of workshops, continuous improvement workshops for coaches, and also workshops and clinics for players out on the pitch. So it's starting to work well, and the coaches are all seeing the benefits. So hopefully that can help the club. As always, we're recruiting players left, right and centre, and recruiting volunteers and coaches. So if anyone wants to join the club, please feel free to reach out. Finally, big word of congratulations to past player Willie Wright. Willie was again selected on the New Zealand Heartland team. Willie was part of our squad from 2013 to 2016. Was a really good player, scrum half, out half. But he was selected on the squad. But this year he was named as captain of that squad. They played the Maori selection last weekend, which they won. I think his wife would love to see him back in Kilkenny someday. He's married to a local girl, so would love to see him back in the Kilkenny jersey. But look, at just everyone in the club is proud of Willie and kind of wish him all the best. Just to finish up, everything that I've mentioned here is on our website and also across our socials on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If anyone wants to keep up to date, just throw a follow. That's it from Kilkenny Rugby Club.
Lovely stuff, James, which is plenty there to digest. Lots happening in the club, which is great to see, and good luck the weekend. Paddy, you're up next. Seapoint at the weekend. What can you tell us?
Okay, well, thanks, Stephen. We had, I suppose, mixed results over the weekend between all our matches. Won about half of them. Neither of our senior ladies teams had matches, so the main focus, I suppose, was on the first and the seconds up in Seapoint, as you mentioned. And I think I'll also say a little bit about the Sexual Carlow team. Johnny Tobin, formerly of this parish, is their head coach, and they're having a really good run. So, and there's a lot of local involvement. So I might mention that particular team and how they're going maybe after I talk about our first and seconds. Yeah, so our first and seconds both went to top of the table Seapoint, and it was 2 defeats, but I have to say two very good matches. Our first had a few significant injuries and sicknesses, and so we were missing 3 very key players in Stevie Smith, Adam Johnson and Jack Hanlon. And Adam actually only cried off in the dressing room before the match, so it created a little bit of unrest, and had to reshuffle the pack a bit, and even had to take guys up from the seconds who were playing on the back pitch in Seapoint. So the first started with a few inexperienced guys and a bit of a reshuffled team, and came out on the wrong side of a 38-34 defeat. But it was a cracker of a match, and we got 2 bonus points, a 4-try bonus point and a 4-point scoring difference. And I think as some of the guys were saying after the match, we probably would have accepted that going up on the motorway. So we weren't too unhappy. As I mentioned, Seapoint are top of the table, and they had a huge crowd out, and they seemed to be really putting in a big effort this year. Even for their seconds match, there was a massive crowd there. So we weren't unhappy. I mean, we just to go through the team there. Dara Cosgrave, full back. The 3 quarters was Tig Walsh, Jordan Ryan, Jack Johnson, who had to step in at the last minute for his brother Adam, who cried off with illness just before the match, and Ryan O'Neill. Out half, Peter Burgess, scrum half, Gareth Fitzgerald. Front row was Scott Gallback, Brian Keogh and Tom Cashin. Second row, Joe Waters and Martin Cole. And the back row, Philip Byrne, Phil O'Byrne and Jack McDonald. And the subs were Faith Kavanagh, Daniel Culleton, Mark Ashton and Big Colin Gorry. Is good to see him back. He had his first game for the seconds this year, and even after playing the full game, came on and had to come on pretty early because of an injury, and certainly pulled his weight in the second match too. He's considerable weight, I might say. So that was the team, and as I said, the final score 38-34. Seapoint started very strong, and they had 2 tries on the one converted by about the 15th minute. And Tullow were really struggling at that stage, but gradually got back into it. And the man who seems to always deliver, the gentle giant Martin Cole, got 2 tries before half time, and both converted, which meant we went in at half time much more comfortable than we would have feared halfway through it. And the half time score was 19-14. In the second half, then Seapoint started stronger again and got another try, got their 4th try, and looked to be pulling away again. Just about to score a 5th try when Ryan Jordan, our New Zealander intercepted and ran the length of the field to score. And that really was a turning point. It kept us in it. It was definitely a 14-point turnaround, and it left us with only a few points behind at that stage. Halfway through the second half, we went down to 13 men. There was yellow cards for Tadhg Walsh and Martin Cole, and I think both yellow cards were out of desperate defence because Seapoint were doing all the attacking at that stage. And we did manage to hold them out for most of the yellow cards. They got one try during it. But we finished up with a converted try to finish the score 38-34. So something we were, as I said earlier, we would have accepted before the game, particularly with the injury profile and the key players that were missing. So that leaves us kind of next week. We're with another local derby. We're home to Athy, and the table is interesting. Athy are on 12 points and Tullow on 8 points. They're in 5th position and we're in 6th. So there'll be huge interest in that match from both Tullow and Athy's point of view. Tom will be talking later about Athy and the Carlow Athy match, and from what I gathered, it was a good match and a tight affair. So we predict again that the Athy match will be a tight affair. But in the last few years, when we played Athy both in the cup and the league, there've been great matches and they bring down a good crowd and it's great atmosphere, and there's a long history between the two clubs. So very much looking forward to that next Sunday. Or next Saturday, I should say, at 2:30. Our seconds also played in Seapoint, and the final score was 28-19 to Seapoint. But again, I was there at full match, and it was a really, really good match. Tullow held up over the line, and the score was 21-19, and that would have been to win the match and to get a 4th try bonus point. But as it turned around, we were held up, and they went up and scored a try, which meant they got a 4 try scoring bonus point, and stopped us getting a 7-point margin bonus point. But I don't think the result matters too much to Tullow. We're not going to be in contention at the end of the year. But what was important for us was to have a good, strong team out against a very strong Seapoint team, and a real cracker of a match. Good to see, as I said earlier, big Colin Gorry back in the second row for his first match, played the full game and went on to sub for the seconds. And we had Paul Canavan at out half as well, and both those played very well. And beside Colin in the second row was young Tom Hughes, a 19-year-old and a great prospect. And there was 3 Leonards from Radvilly playing as well. So good to see the Radvilly Leonard dynasty continuing to produce players for the club. So that was the first and the seconds. And while both teams were defeated, we were relatively happy coming home, and we've had a couple of wins recently after a bad start, and we would nearly rate that as a half a win, and so it builds nicely for the Athy match, both the Athy matches next week, next Saturday. Could I just also mention, as I mentioned earlier, the Setu Carlow team. Since Carlow and Waterford merged to form Setu, they decided to keep their own sports teams. So Waterford have their own rugby team and other teams, and Carlow have their own team. And it has to be said, and Johnny has been coaching them for the last number of years. Johnny Tobin, as I said, formerly of this parish, who presented on this podcast for a number of years. And Johnny's their head coach. And the assistant coach is Carlow's Johnny Farrell. So a strong local involvement there. A lot of local players, particularly Tullow players, on it. And just to mention Nico Umanawa, Jack Rogers, Dalibor Kohler, Peter Burgess, Sean Quinlan from Carlow, Dara Cosgrave, Adam Johnston from Tullow, Conor Elliott, Tyan Smith, Billy Fitzpatrick from Carlow, and Caleb Hogan-Eyre from Kilkenny, and Seamus Murphy from Tullow. So that's on the panel. So they're very strong local involvement there. And I watched some of the match yesterday against UL, and very high standard, I have to say. And they had a good win, high scoring match. They beat UL 41-25. And it's great to see a local team like that playing in the very top division of higher education leagues. Adam Johnson scored a try in 3 conversions. Dara Cosgrave scored a try in 2 conversions and 2 penalties. Carlow's Sean Quinlan got a try, and a few other scores as well from neighbouring clubs. And that's their 3rd win from 3 games. So they're top of the league on 15 points, 3 bonus point wins. So just a shout out to that team and to Johnny Hogan and John Farrell, their coaches, who are really flying the flag. So on to our underage, we had a number of matches and some matches cancelled. Our under 13 boys beat Wicklow 17-5. Our under 15 boys beat Gorey in a huge, a big win for them, 45-5. Under 16 boys, we got a walkover from Enniscorthy. The girls, the under 16 Rhinos, beat Wicklow lost to Wicklow 24-31. Our under 18 boys had no match, and our under 18 boys alternative team or seconds beat Carlow 38-19. The under 18 girls had no match. As I said earlier, both our neither of our senior women's teams had games. James mentioned the minis there, and just to comment, it's very strong in all the three clubs here at the moment, and we have over 200 kids coming out in the minis. And huge credit to all the coaches and parents and our CCRO, John Manifold, who has been doing a fantastic job at the minis, and it's great. So I want to feature just one of those teams this week, the under 12 girls, and 21 of them travelled to Edenderry to play in the Aviva Minis Festival last weekend. And it's a huge number of girls for that age group, and a massive endorsement to the club development of girls rugby over the past few years. And this has been led by Alex O'Brien, Irina Byrne, Helen Myers, John Manifold, and numerous others. So Tullow have been growing girls' participation for a number of years through school visits by the CCRO. It used to be Larry Canavan, and now John Manifold has taken up that post in recent years, and they've been very successful. And also the Leinster Rugby's Give It a Try has been hugely huge reason for the increase in girls rugby. So we've been very much to the fore in that, and we're very proud of the focus on girls in the club, and we're looking to produce the next Dan O'Brien or Katie Corrigan or Melanie Griffith to represent Tullow at international level. So looking forward to the weekend. We have a full schedule of matches. The 13 boys are away to Monagar on Saturday. The Rhinos are home to it. The under 14 Rhinos home to Athy. The under 16 boys home to Wicklow. The under 16 Rhinos are home to Port Clara. The under 18 boys are away to Wicklow. The under 18 boys alternative are away to Midland Warriors. The under 18 Rhinos are away to Naas. As if the men's J1 and J2s are home to Athy at 1 o'clock and 2:30 on Saturday. So another big day in the club, because the women's AIL team are on at 5 o'clock against Railway Union. So the games aren't getting any easier for the girls, but they're having a bit of a baptism of fire. But every game will give them more experience, and they're getting some extra girls back from injury too. So hopefully, on Sunday then, the under 14 boys are away to Dundalk. The under 15 boys are away to Portlaoise, and the women's J1 team are home to Balbriggan. So a very busy schedule of matches coming up the weekend. And that's it from the Tullow side, Stephen.
Lovely stuff, Paddy. Again, another big comprehensive report on what's happening in the club as well. Geez, busy times with everything going on, and lots of positivity there, the underage and everything as well. Tom, you had your nearest and dearest Athy, one of your other big local rivals, last weekend. How did that go? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, another loss. It's won another game we could have won, should have won. Look, it was a very tight affair near the end. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of difference between the two teams. We made a couple of mistakes, a couple of errors, and switched off. I don't think our attitude was right at times. It was hard kind of coming back and giving a glowing report when, like, it was some really good rugby played by both sides, and then it was a real derby at times. I mean, there was a couple of fisticuff handbags and yellow cards and so on. Like, there was a niggle in the game, but that's normal in that sort of rivalry.
You need that, Tom.
You
need a bit of that.
Well, you need a bit of that, but we didn't match it at times, and I think that was our biggest problem. We have to have a good long look at ourselves after the game and to see where we're at, because there's not a whole lot. Like, I know the results aren't shown. They aren't showing the wins, but the results don't show how well the team are playing at times. It's small errors. Like, we went out okay, fair enough. Athy got a penalty first, 3 points. We gave away the first points, 3 points. Then about 15 minutes later, we were probably just inside their half. They had the ball, it passed it back. The player actually was scuttled along the ground, and the centre just picked it up, and there was a missed tackle, and it just where it was, and all of a sudden, our centre just went through and ran straight and ran from the halfway line and scored under the post. Like that type of try, no, it doesn't happen, unless you get an intercept or whatever. But this was just a complete lapse of concentration, people in wrong positions, lads shooting up and swear shouldn't have shot up. And look, Athy got a try under the post, and then we were back down to this thing of being 10-0 down. Then we came back and I started the second half, and all of a sudden they got another score, and we had then after that we gave away a penalty from that, so we gave away 10 points in a row. 10 points, so that's 20. That's 20 points, and I can safely say that 7 and both of those tries come from error from kickoff, and giving away a penalty from a kickoff just doesn't like they scored a try, and a minute later we give away a penalty from a kickoff, and that's just ridiculous. And
you were on the receiving end of that from us last year. Remember, Tom? We had you beaten, and from the kickoff we conceded a penalty, and your lad bang over the bar, game over. Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
But this is we can't we at that stage. It's really hard to say. We got a penalty, then we came back and we had scored a try, but the score was 20-10. They were 10 points ahead. Ben had an opportunity to kick he went to kick a penalty, an easy enough penalty, but look, went slightly wide, so it stayed the same. And in fairness to him, he came back. We got a penalty just on the halfway line, in front of the post, and he took it and slotted it straight in from halfway line. It was a brave move, and I have to compliment him on that, because it's not an easy thing to go for a missed kick, and that gave us a losing bonus point. But look, it's not. We're so close to getting it right, and I think it will come. It will come, and it has to come shortly, but it will come, because even watching it, speaking to some of the lads in the bar and supporters who came up in the bar afterwards. Yes, they're wondering what's going on, and I know, as I say, Alakadoos might be too happy with what's happening, because we haven't won yet. But when you get down to the nitty gritty and you talk to people, the one thing people said was there was some fantastic rugby played, and it's not that's not there. We're nearly there.
But it's an unforgiving league, Tom.
We're naive maybe to come up and say, look, when you come from the winning background, when you come from we had this last 2 seasons ago, we kind of struggled, and we kind of finished the mid-table part, and then last season we came back with a bang and had some fantastic wins, and once and we got points at every match, and won the league and won the Southeast League, and you're on a high, and then you come up, and I don't know, for us it's really a baptism of fire.
One of the things I always felt with that league was you could play your best rugby, and you're playing against teams who are seasoned in that league, and one mistake and bang, they're on it. I think it's a pardon the language, it's a bitch of a league.
It is. It's tough, and from us,
just so tough.
Coming up, we probably don't have the experience that some of the other teams that have come up into the league, just with players and having that bit of a seasoned player that's been around. Like, a lot of that team are still very, very young, and especially most of the back line, and like there's a lot of young players in the pack that are under the age of 21. Some of and that's under 22, and that's we're kind of missing that little bit of experience at times. But look, we're living on the hoof, as I say. We're learning every game, and they have improved. I think they will improve again. I think we're not too far off. We're not too far off where we should be. But the problem now is that every game from now to the end of the season is going to count, because we're in a battle at the bottom of the table. But look, it's up to us ourselves to turn that around. It's not that we can't turn it around, and I know we will pick up wins along the way. As I said, the game was tough. It was tight. There was a niggle, and a tie also had come with two teams that were well fired, because we stole the league off them last year with a kick in the last minute of the game.
That's right.
We also stole it. We also bet their seconds in the Towns Cup semi-finals. So they were probably that little bit more geared towards this game, with a bit of vengeance coming to Carlow. And you could see it after the game, the way, just there was a light in winning both games. But look, we're heading to Ashbourne this weekend with the J1s and 2s. So that's a game going up the motorway, and we have to win it. I think we've done a lot of preparation on Tuesday night. I think our selection will be a little bit slightly different this week, but not a whole lot different. But I think the lads know the mission that they have. It's going to be a cup match basically up there, and Ashbourne won't be easy at home. But look, that's our next focus. Where we've geared all train towards this game on Saturday. The J-Tal need the first alone, because as I said, like, it's not a whole lot you can really say. There was no real. Everyone was sort of at a level. There was no particularly outstanding play on the day. Our seconds definitely fell asleep at the wheel. They went down. They were 3-0, 10-0, 10-3, 25, 2012, and then finished off 2017. Fell asleep in the first. Fell asleep for just didn't perform for most of the match, and then came back and made a couple of changes, and all of a sudden that's another game we definitely should have won. There was absolutely no reason whatsoever that that we shouldn't have won that game. That's a game that has seen. There's a couple of seconds there. I have to mention young Aaron Gordon in the centre has been getting better every game. Will Kelly on the wing has come back. Came back the end of last season, but has really got stuck in this year and is playing quite well. As I said, young Dara Brennan playing in the front row. Dara has come up from her youth and is getting better every game. There's a bit of a bite about him, and he's playing some fantastic rugby at the moment. Look, there's a good strong seconds team. There was no reason that we should have. As I say, I know it's an attitude thing, but we have to start these games a little bit better, because that's where we're losing our games. We've lost all the games. Same against Seapoint. We came back against Seapoint. There's no way. Looking at it realistically, we could have got something coming out of Seapoint. The same against our friends in Tullow. We came out and were down 17 before we knew it. So this just kind of has been kind of on the cards the whole time, that we haven't been performing at the start on first and our second. So look, that's something we're working on keenly this week. As I said, both teams are going to Ashbourne. It won't be easy. They won't want. They're in the same position as us, down the bottom of the table. So it's a bottom and second from the bottom playoff basically at the moment, and we have to fight hard. And hopefully we'll next week, when I'm here, I'm hopefully talking about a win and not the same situation. Other than that, then we come back. Our women's had a friendly against Thurles at home. As I said, they've been getting themselves together. they've been doing some fantastic work, because I think they have a panel now of about 22 to 22, 23 players. They probably they were well beaten in the end, but Thurles would be playing a division. They're playing Division 2 in Munster, and our girls are in Division 6 Beginners League, the baby league in Leinster. So there was a bit of a gap between the two as far as just experience in play, and you could see it. But in fairness, the girls got a couple of tries and played. They fought right to the very end. You can see the development even throughout the game. Look, they came out after them. They're probably disappointed because they hadn't been beaten yet, and it was their first loss. But we didn't know. You could see the difference in physicality from the two teams, the difference in skill levels, but look, that's a learning curve. It was great to get that fixture, massive to get that fixture. Just a couple of the women I have to mention that just had scored tries or played well, and Jay Collins, Louise Kelly, Darren Slater, Courtney Forbes had an outstanding game, and Captain Becky Fahy as well. But look, from every girl that put their boots on and came out on that pitch on Sunday, we're very, very proud of them, because, as I said, they've come from nothing, from scratch, and other clubs have actually asked us, how in the name of God can we have 21 or 22 on a panel starting for the first time in I think in about 15 years, and it's a testament to the girls. But as I said, we started off with a social. That was the goal first. It was to be social rugby, enjoy it, and but now their social part has come up, and now their rugby is starting to improve, and they're starting to actually get a bit hungry as well, and realizing that they're actually starting to enjoy this, and they're becoming competitive. They're heading to Lansdowne at the weekend. They're playing Lansdowne on Sunday. So if they get a win there, it's going to come down between themselves and the Midland Warriors the following week. And there'll be a top of the table clash between the two, which is going to be in Carlow. Midland Warriors have been going very well, but they're again, they started last season, so they're probably a season ahead of us. But look, we're looking forward to that. Our youths had mixed days. Paddy said the Rhino girls lost 24-31. The 13s had a very good friendly against Nina. They won 17-10. Our under 15s beat Arklow 27-7. Our under 16s beat Arklow 34-26. And the under 18s, as the development side, lost to Tullow 19-38. It's going well, mixed bag. I didn't get the fixtures for this week, and it wasn't handled, so I'm sorry I can't go through that. I just want to give a huge thank you to Stevie Smith, who took time out of his busy schedule to come down and coach the 18s on Tuesday night. Stevie's had great success at the moment and has had his first Leinster caps, and he's such a lovely guy. You couldn't ask for anything, and he has a huge passion for Carlow. Always inquiring how we're getting on. Always turns up when he can come. Always will turn up at a match out of the blue to come and watch us, and he's got hopefully he's got a glistening career ahead of him, because I don't think anybody will work harder for it. He's a fantastic, not only a good rugby player, but a really, really nice guy. And that's has always offered to come down and do something. But he came down, as I say, on Tuesday night and did a bit of scrummaging and rucking and that with the under 18s, and they loved it. There was a massive crowd. I don't think there was as many at training for the 18s, and they had the two full squad development and the actual 18s. The whole lot of them came out for that one. So there was a massive crowd there from them on Tuesday night, which was great. Other than that, that's really all from Carlow at the moment. I hope next week we'll have a bit more of a smile on my face. But I'd say, look, it's not all doom and gloom. The club is still, we're still in a good place. And I have to say, look, the one thing I go back and just thank our seniors, and it's a testament to not only the coaches, but to the whole setup and the way the club. Like they had a great night on Saturday. I know they lost, but they had a really good night, and they stayed in the club nearly all night. So it was late enough now when they finished, but they came back up, and we had 42 training on Tuesday night of the seniors, and that's after all the losses and and the results. They all turned up on Tuesday night. We were actually kind of surprised because it was the rain had started, and a lot of lads, especially lads who haven't made the seconds, or mightn't have had enough game time. They were all there and in the rain, and it didn't matter, and that's a testament to the club and a testament to the players themselves. So I just want to thank them, because I don't think our players in all clubs need to be thanked, because they're coming down in the rain, and they're taking, they're coming after jobs. They're driving from farms. They come that it's an amateur game, and sometimes they just need to be thanked. And I want to just thank the lads personally this week, because they haven't back training after the slump that we're in. It's just great, and it gave everybody a boost. So let's just hope we can go up the motorway and get the win the weekend. That's it from Carlow.
I'd agree with what you're saying, Tom. The players, I said it to our youth coaches last night that we're nothing without our youth coaches, but our youth coaches have nothing without our players, and same for adult coaches. And without our players, men's and women's, we have no club, essentially, So I think that thanks distills the whole way down to youth rugby, to players and parents as well, and coaches. So
absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Lads, go well at the weekend. Best of luck on the pitch with all your own stuff. And also enjoy the internationals as well. Of course, this has been recorded on a Thursday, so it's tomorrow night Ireland play the All Blacks, and there's plenty of other games on across the weekend, England, Argentina, and so on and so forth. We'll see what happens, but more importantly, go well at the weekend yourselves with your own clubs, and we'll catch up with you next week. And fingers crossed it all goes well. Take care. Catch us next week, folks.
Thank you.